And good afternoon, producer Susan. Are you adjusting to daylight savings time?
I hate daylight savings time. It is dark when I wake up now.
I actually love it because I wake up in the dark year round, so I don't care. I like having the daylight at night, but I'd be happy if they stopped changing it either way.
I think that's the one thing we can all agree on is we got to stop with the back and forth. I think the one thing we
Got to stop with
disagree
the back
on
and
is
forth. I agree.
standard time or daylight time.
I agree. Um, hey, I know you got a dinner reservation. We're going to try to make this quick today. We have so much to talk about. And let me give you a quick rundown. We may not get to all of it. We may have to hold something over till next week. Um, anyway, we're 7 weeks into the Trump presidency, and the hits just keep on coming. Our quote of the week is from Louisiana Senator John Kennedy, who we had on many times, and it's his opinion why we shouldn't why Republicans shouldn't try to interfere with anything the Democrats are trying to do. This our stupidest thing of the week I've heard all week is a new one I got from you this morning when I put this together. This was not my stupidest thing I've heard all week, but you sent this to me, and it not only is this the stupidest thing I've heard all week, the stupidest thing I've heard all year. It's
Yes, I agree.
it's about a law in one state requiring hospitals to ask parents of newborn children to fill out a form asking them if their newborn child, again, this is a day old, is straight, gay, or transgender. And we'll tell you which state that is. And we'll tell you, and another stupid law being proposed in that same state that would outlaw not just the sale, but actual use of gas-powered lawnmowers. We have another runner-up, which is a clip of Senators Chuck Schumer, Elizabeth Warren, and Cory Booker all giving the identical word-for-word speech in a press interview, in three different press interviews, just prior to President Trump's address to Congress last week. This was supposed to be impromptu, a press interview, and we have all three of them simultaneously mouthing the same thing. We have another runner-up. We'll tell you how somebody decided to protest Elon Musk's efforts to identify and eliminate government waste. Um, and here's a huge story that you didn't hear in the evening news. We'll tell you who wasn't signing the majority of the executive orders and legislation that got him put into effect during the Biden administration. This is huge, and I can't believe the media hasn't covered it. We'll also we'll go to the Wayback Machine, play a clip of Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama giving speeches on how they would deal with illegal immigrants. We'll tell you about the murder of a police officer in New Jersey last week and who killed him and how. We'll tell you I'm probably going to drop this one because we don't have time for it. I'll save this for next week. In the case of karma, if we have time, we'll tell you what happened to a California woman who was a very, very, very big advocate of defund the police. And our taxpayer relief shot comes to us this week from Texas, where a 60-year-old grandmother confronted two armed home invaders in her house. And let me just delete that other thing that we're not going to talk about today because we don't have time for it. All right. So our quote of the week from one of my favorite senators, you've heard him. He's asking people what percentage of CO2 is in the atmosphere. Remember, he's got
Yes.
Southern drawl. Well,
Mhm.
here's his quote of the week about Democrats and how they're making fools out of themselves. And here's his advice to Republicans. We need to stay as calm as a Hindu cow and just go about our work and get our bills passed and let Democrats be Democrats. So far, it's working. You should never interfere with your opponent when he is kicking his own ass. What do you think about that?
Yep.
Never interfere with your opponent when he's kicking his own ass. Great words of advice. All right. So this is the one you sent me on the stupidest. This is the stupidest thing I've
Yeah.
heard all month. And
All
this
year.
and this is actually or all year. This is New Jersey, by the way. I didn't even realize this law existed, but let me play a clip. Um, this is from a radio talk show host. He's giving a preview of what he's going to talk about. And here we go.
There is a ridiculous new law in New Jersey that requires hospitals ask the parents of newborns if their baby is transgender. The law requires hospitals to give this form to new parents asking about gender identity, sexual orientation. One lawmaker calls it completely and utterly insane and is now trying to get that law off the books so that parents aren't asked these questions. We're going to tell you more about the form, the reason it was created, and I want to hear your opinions on this on the morning show this morning.
And by the way, I've got a picture of this form. I just want to read you. This is an actual form that hospitals are required
Mhm.
to hand to the parents. And here's some of the questions. What was the sex your baby was assigned at birth? Male, female, prefer not to answer. Um, do you identify your baby as male, female, transgender female, gender queer, additional? Which of the following best describes your baby? Lesbian or gay, straight or heterosexual, bisexual? How is a parent supposed to know whether a 1 day old baby is lesbian or gay, straight or heterosexual or bisexual? How is a parent supposed to know that?
Yeah, I have two major issues with this. First of all, we're talking about newborns, infants,
Right.
newborn babies.
1 day old.
I have no problem if you want to be transgender. That is your prerogative to do so as a thought thinking person, which infants are not capable of.
Well,
And
but these are the parents. If you're the parents of a one
yes,
day old baby, and again, this is I'm actually looking at the form. Which of the following best describes your baby? This is a 1 day old baby. Baby is lesbian or gay. That's one choice. Straight or heterosexual. Third choice is bisexual.
and yet the second part I have a major problem with is that when you're talking about being gay or lesbian or bisexual, that you're talking about your sexual preference, which children at newborns, again, newborns, infants, they don't have sex organs yet. I mean, yes, little baby boys are born with penises, but they don't, their sex organs are not developed.
Right. But we could probably spend 10 minutes on this. And this clip we have, even though it's from a radio, it does show a picture of this form
I
and
think
produce.
until you hit puberty as a child, you can't even begin to
Yeah.
fathom these concepts.
Yeah. And this question, there's to the parents, do you identify your baby as male, female,
That is an
transgender?
individual choice that only the individual can
Yeah,
make, meaning only the baby can make.
that's
And the
correct.
baby is not capable of that choice.
That's right. So asking the parents, do you identify your baby as gender queer, additional gender category? I mean, you look at this form, it's so absurd. And producer Susan, if you put the link up,
Yeah, absolutely.
and again, people listening, when you play this, make sure you have your screen on because you'll actually see a picture of the form they're being asked to fill out.
Yeah.
So that's the stupidest thing I've heard all year. And thank you, producer Susan. All right, here's our runner-up. Same state, New Jersey, has proposed a law that would not only ban the sale of new gas-powered lawnmowers. We've seen this before, like in
Yes.
Colorado, and I even think New
Yeah.
Jersey. But this new proposed law doesn't only want to ban the sale, it wants to ban their use, meaning if this law passes 5 years from now, if you go out on a Saturday morning to mow your lawn with your 5-year-old gas lawnmower, you can get a ticket for using your lawnmower. Now, here's a question. If this law goes into effect and next spring you need a new lawnmower, would you spend $3,000 to buy a new riding lawnmower next year if you knew in 4 years you couldn't use it anymore?
Absolutely not.
Would you even buy a $300 lawnmower next year if you
I
couldn't
mean,
use it?
if you got to, you got to, because the fine, at
Right.
least in our town, the fine is
Right.
$50 a pop, which could be every single day.
So, so again, hopefully this law doesn't get passed. But it's one thing to find. You want to ban a sale and let people use their old gas-powered lawnmowers till they die. That's great. But to ban the use of a lawnmower, I've got a riding lawnmower I got 5 years ago. It's only got 200 hours on it. It's good for.
Yeah.
Don't you have one that's more than 30 years old?
I have one. It's a John Deere from 1955, and it still works fabulous.
So you have a 70-year-old riding lawnmower that still works just fine, and they want
Nothing runs like a deer.
nothing runs like a deer. So that's one of their runner-up. Now, here we have a third runner-up. Actually, we have four this week. Remember that President Trump's address to Congress last week,
Mhm.
2 weeks ago? Well, Schumer, Warren, and Cory Booker from Newark all gave a press conference, and they were all asked what their thoughts on President Trump's speech, and they also had a transcript of his speech. Well, here is how they independently, remember this is supposed to be, you're gonna hear all three of them simultaneously because this is them independently expressing their views. So here we go. We're gonna go all the way back to here. All right, wait a minute. Sorry. Here we go. This is all three independently.
Immediately briefed Prices down starting on
We're starting with Trump.
That ain't true. That's what you just heard. It's day one. Donald Trump's presidency. Prices are not down, they're up. Inflation is getting worse, not better. The prices of grocery, gas, housing, eggs of essentials. It's not getting better, it's getting worse. Meanwhile, Donald Trump has done nothing.
Now it's a word jumble. I'm not going to make you list the whole thing, but if you listen closely, they are all saying literally word for word exactly the same thing in what's supposed to be 3 independent interviews with the press.
Yep.
So they're all reading from a script. So
They must all have the same speechwriter.
must all have the same speechwriter. All right, so let's move on. The last stupidest thing I've heard all week. So apparently somebody in Boston was unhappy with Elon Musk's effort to identify and eliminate government waste. So they decided the best way to voice his or her displeasure over Musk's efforts was, ready for this, to set fire to 6 Tesla charging stations up in the Boston area.
Yeah.
Now, other than pissing off a bunch of liberal Tesla owners, what do you think he or she accomplished?
Absolutely nothing.
Absolutely nothing.
I mean, headlines in the news, but absolutely nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. So you set fire and you destroyed 6 Tesla charging stations, and all you did was piss off a bunch of liberal Tesla owners. Oh, goodness. I know we're rushing through this, but anyway. Now, here's a huge story. We call this the situation with Jerzee Joe, news and perspective you won't hear on TV. What a news agency discovered last week, and this should be huge news. Do you know what an auto pen is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a signature pen that you can use over and over again.
Yeah, you put a document in it, you press a button, and it signs your name. They have a signature file. And this has been going on for decades. Presidents, send out all sorts of thank you letters. And, they dictate the thank you letter to the secretary. And the secretary, takes the letter, puts it on the auto pen machine, and presses the sign button. And it signs the president's name. But when you do that, every single signature from the auto pen is literally identical. If you stack them up on each other, they would be literally identical. Well, that's fine for like thank you letters and announcement letters. But when you're signing things that are legal documents like executive orders and you're signing pieces of legislation that have reached your desk from Congress, you're supposed to sign them. I don't even think an auto pen signature on a legal document is legal. To my knowledge, I don't see how it could be because the president didn't actually sign them.
Yeah.
And this should be huge news because, I mean, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a constitutional lawyer, but if the president didn't actually sign an executive order or didn't sign a piece of legislation like the Green New Deal, is that executive order actually in effect? Is that piece of legislation?
That's
if it
a good
hasn't,
question. I mean, it should be what they call a wet signature.
Right. Now, and here's Speaker of the House Mike Johnson stumbling on. He didn't realize this at the time, but I think we talked about this a couple of weeks ago where he discovered that President Biden had no knowledge of something that he supposedly signed. Well, it turned out that he probably didn't sign it. Somebody signed it for him. This is Mike Johnson talking about a meeting he finally got with President Biden over a piece of legislation, over an executive order that he thought was stupid. And here we go with Speaker Mike Johnson.
Got some big national security things I need to talk to you about that I've heard and I think you know, and what do we do? But first, real quickly, Mr. President, can I ask you a question? I cannot answer this from my constituents in Louisiana. Sir, why did you pause LNG exports to Europe? Like, I don't know.
LNG is liquefied natural gas, and Europe is a big user of liquefied natural gas because they don't have their own. They either buy it from us or they buy it from Russia. Here we go. I'm going to back it up just a little.
You know, and what do we do? But first, real quickly, Mr. President, can I ask you a question? I cannot answer this from my constituents in Louisiana. Sir, why did you pause LNG exports to Europe? Like, I don't understand, liquefied natural gas is in great demand by our allies. Why would you do that? Because you understand, we just talked about Ukraine. You understand you're fueling Vladimir Putin's war machine because they got to get their gas from him, And he looks at me stunned with this, and he said, I didn't do that. I said, Mr. President, yes, you did. It was an executive order 3 weeks ago. And he goes, no, I didn't do that. And he's arguing with me. I said, Mr. President, respectfully, could I go out here and ask your secretary to print it out? We'll read it together. You definitely did that. And he goes, oh, you talk about natural gas. Yes, sir. He said, no, you misunderstand. He said, what I did is I signed this thing we're gonna conduct a study on the effects of LNG. I said, no, you're not, sir. You paused it. I know. I have the export terminals in my state. I talked to those people this morning. This is doing massive damage to our economy, national security. It occurred to me, Barry, he was not lying to me. He genuinely did not know what he had signed. And I walked out of that meeting with fear and loathing because I thought, we're in serious trouble. Who is running the country? Like, I don't know who put the paper in front of him, but he didn't know.
Well, and what Johnson didn't know at the time, he assumed that somebody put a piece of paper in front of Biden, and Biden actually signed the piece of paper. It now looks very much like Biden never even saw the paper. Because clearly Biden didn't know what that order was, and now it's a question: did he even sign it himself, or was it signed by somebody with an auto pen? Isn't that scary?
It is very scary. And like you said, those things are meant to be used for, invitations and, group
And thank yous and
form letters, thank you letter, things that are just everyday common correspondence that can you imagine how many letters the president gets every day?
Sure. But and here's the next question. Why didn't the media think that was a story you should hear about on TV?
Yeah, it definitely is.
All right, we're going to the Wayback Machine. Here's Hillary Clinton when she was running for president, and here's Barack Obama when he was running for president, or I'm sorry, when he was running for his second term as president, talking about how we should handle illegal immigration. Here we go. Let's see if we get this to play.
Conditions. Tell people to come out of the shadows. If they've committed a crime, deport them. No questions asked. They're gone. If they've been working and are law abiding, we should say, here are the conditions for you staying. You have to pay a stiff fine because you came here illegally. You have to pay back taxes, and you have to try to learn English, and you have to wait in line.
A significant fine. You are going to learn English. You are going to go to the back of the line so that you don't get ahead of somebody who was in Mexico City applying illegally. But after you've done these things over a certain period of time, you can.
So don't they sound a lot like Donald Trump?
Yeah. I think the only difference is that Trump is actually acting on his words.
Yeah. I love that because last week Trump made English the official language of the United States, and here both Obama and Clinton are saying, you will learn English.
Yeah.
And Trump goes ahead and do it, and the whole world comes down on him because he simply said, you have to learn English. That's going to be our national language. Oh, driving me crazy here.
It's like, and I think we talked about this earlier. I don't remember if we actually did. When Clinton laid off or eliminated, almost 400,000 jobs when he was in office as a Democrat.
The federal government. Yep.
That's not even close to what Trump has done so far.
No, Trump is looking at 30,000 so far, and Clinton did 400,000.
And yet nobody remembers when Clinton did that.
Nope, nobody remembers. I got a question for you. We had an police officer murdered here last week in New Jersey. Did that make the local news in Pennsylvania?
No.
Well, this is tragic. There were two police officers, they were, I think, on a stakeout looking for illegal, and they pulled up. There apparently was an illegal gun deal going down, and a 14-year-old kid armed with a pistol that had been illegally modified to fire full automatic. In other words, you pull the trigger, it just keeps on shooting. You don't have to pull it.
Yeah.
And this 14-year-old kid pointed this fully automatic pistol at his car, put 29 bullet holes in the car, and killed the officer before he even got out of his car. 14-year-old kid with a fully automatic handgun. Where does a 14-year-old kid get a fully automatic handgun?
I think we need laws in place to prevent 14-year-olds from owning from guns.
Yeah, maybe we should pass some laws that say 14-year-old kids can't have fully automatic handguns.
And here's the sad part about that is that 14-year-old is probably not going to be charged as an adult.
He can't be, because in New Jersey, you can't be charged as an adult unless you're at least 15 years of age. So this 14-year-old kid, by the way, he killed the one officer, seriously wounded, critically wounded his second. He cannot be tried as an adult, which means the most he can get is 4 years in juvie. He'll be out when he...
This was not an accident. This was not a mistake. This was an intentional firing of that gun.
Right. He had a 30, by the way, the magazine limit in New Jersey is 10 rounds. So not only did he have an illegally modified gun, he had a 30-round magazine in the pistol. By the way, 30-round magazine in the pistol sticks out about 8 inches below the buttstock of the pistol because the pistol itself can only hold about 12. So when you have a 30-round magazine, it's this long thing that sticks out below the grip of the gun. So he had an illegally
He's going to
modified
get
gun,
4 years for murder.
4 years for killing,
Cold-blooded murder.
for intentionally killing a cop. 4 years. That's all he'll see.
That is a damn crying shame.
And his record will be sealed, by the way, because he's a juvenile. So if this kid goes to ever apply for a job, there'll be no record that he murdered a cop.
So at 18 years old, he could do whatever he wants.
Well, he'll be released from juvie the day before he turns 18, and he'll have a spotless record as far as the rest of the world is concerned.
That is horrible.
And the other thing I want to know is the reason I asked you if you heard about it, why wasn't this why wasn't this big news outside of New Jersey?
I didn't hear about that at all.
Yeah. 14-year-old kid shoots 2 cops, kills 1. And by the way, so background check laws. Obviously, this kid, it was a stolen gun, illegally modified. So as Senator Joe Biden said 20 years ago, he said, I am convinced that any criminal can obtain a gun illegally, regardless of what laws we have on the book. And he was right then, but the big thing is now, we need stronger background check laws. No, we don't. We need to enforce the laws we have. You ever watch this show, Live PD or Cops, whatever? They're pulling people over all the time. The guns are always stolen. I can't tell you how many episodes I've seen where they pull a guy over, they chase a guy, they find him with a gun, it's a stolen gun. All right. Karma is a bitch segment. We have a story about a defund the police advocate from California who is mad at the police for not catching the people who robbed her. And this is a quote from the story. When thieves made off with Darcy Bell's rented U-Haul truck, the San Francisco woman put out a call for help on X. She said, if you see a 26-foot long U-Haul truck with Arizona plate number, blah, 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 would you please let me know it because everything I had was in it. I haven't found my shit. The cops didn't do shit. U-Haul made me file an effing police report. So she's all pissed at the cops. And this is the same woman, when she was in San Francisco, wanted to defund the police. And now she's mad at the cops because they can't find her stolen truck with all of her stuff in place. That's karma for you, isn't it?
Yep,
right.
Absolutely.
I know we're going to cut this short. How much time we got left?
Oh, we got 10 minutes.
Well, okay, we're not going to go through. Anyway, so taxpayer relief shot, real quick, and this is why we call them, we'll just play the one today, taxpayer relief shots. Where did we go here? Here's why we call them taxpayer relief shots.
Somebody's breaking in your house, you're more than welcome to shoot them in Santa Rosa County. We prefer that you do, actually. Hopefully, you'll save the taxpayers money.
All right, and that's why we call it a taxpayer relief shot. And so here's a 60-year-old grandmother in Texas confronts 2 armed intruders. So 60-year-old against 2 young men. Here we go.
At 4 o'clock, Harris County deputies say a woman took matters into her own hands as she confronted 2 people who barged into her home.
Police say that woman shot and killed one of the suspects. Thanks for joining us. I'm Bill Vianci, and for Keith Garvin today.
And I'm Sarah Donchie. Right now, deputies are still working to piece together exactly what happened. Shots rang out around 11:30 this morning on Fort Bowie Court, close to Fry Road near the Katy Freeway.
Our Phil Archer is there right now. Phil, what can you tell us about this?
Well, this was an attempted home invasion. The man who was killed in that attempted home invasion still hasn't been moved. His body's laying outside the house where he fell. The woman who shot him defending her home, according to deputies, is unharmed. She's talking to police right now. Gunfire shattered the calm around 11:30 this morning. Then 2 strangers ran from the house. One of the men never stopped, but the other collapsed and died in the front yard.
Because I heard it was a burglar and I live in this neighborhood. That's not like this neighborhood.
Just seconds before, the 2 suspects walked into the house through an open garage door.
The interior door was not locked, so they walked in carrying weapons and then came into the house. Don't know what they were demanding. Personal effects, money, or that right now.
They were met inside by the woman who lives there, a 60-year-old grandmother who had a gun of her own.
She confronted both suspects. That female then retrieved a handgun and fired several times at both subjects.
The dead man still has not been identified. The man who was with him jumped a fence and was last seen running along Psalms Road. That second suspect still at large, last seen wearing blue or gray shorts and a dark T-shirt. Deputies are still searching for him. Reporting live in Northwest Harris County, I'm Phil Archer, KPRC Channel 2 News. All right, Phil.
So what do we always say about Texas? Everybody has a gun, even
Everybody
grandma.
has a gun. I don't understand these people in Texas. Everybody's got a gun in Texas.
Even a 60-year-old grandmother, and apparently they know how to use them. I mean,
I was thinking about this the other night. We don't have often, maybe we haven't ever, we don't hear about taxpayer relief shots in places like Montana, Wyoming.
No, never.
Dakotas, where everybody openly carries a gun.
North Dakota, South Dakota, Idaho, Montana, Wyoming. We never get taxpayer relief shots.
And
up
yet
there,
everybody has a gun.
Yeah, those states I just rattled off, by the way, have the highest rates of household gun ownerships in the United States. In fact, I think in Montana the ratio of guns to people is greater than 1 to 1.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't recall ever having a taxpayer relief shot from Montana, Wyoming, Idaho, North Dakota, South Dakota. It's just and then Texas,
everybody has a gun.
And in Texas, even grandmothers have guns in Texas. But apparently, criminals aren't that bright, because if they would read a newspaper, they would know it's a high-risk profession in the state of Texas. So, but people never learn. Anyway, anything you want to add before we sign off?
And people don't often lock their doors in those areas either.
Yeah. All right. Hey, I know you got a dinner appointment you got to get to, so just going to wrap this up. Want to thank everybody who listened to the podcast for giving up 30 minutes out of your busy day to listen to me ramble on about the things I found important. I hope you did too. If you want to see some of the materials and story links you heard me talk about today, you can find them on the Jerzee Joe website at jerzeejoe.com, with Jerzee being spelled J-E-R as in Robert, Z as in zebra, E-E, Jerzee, jerzeejoe.com. Just give producer Susan a couple of days to get all those links up on the website. If you want to email me with a comment, question, or a suggested show topic, you can do that by sending me an email to just joe@jerzeejoe.com. Just remember to spell Jerzee, Jerzee. And with that, producer Susan, I'll sign off and we'll talk to you next week. Are you good?
All right. Yep.
All right. Talk to you next week. You take care. Bye-bye.